So, on the previous video, I mentioned that Al Heyman's having a record year for himself. I mean, he's put on great super fights, like several of them, like Jamel Charlo versus Canelo. Benavidez is obviously going to be fighting. Obviously, he had Crawford versus Spence. Obviously, he's had Javante Davis versus Ryan Garcia. But on the flip side, I mean, it seems like it can't be any worse for Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn has just had, in the past, what, year and a half, he's had three fighters that have failed drug tests for him. Three fighters. I mean, it's quite incredible, actually. Like, three fighters have um, failed drug tests under his banner. And from a PR perspective, um, it just doesn't look good. It looks terrible, to be honest with you. It looks really bad, like what's going on with Eddie Hearn. Like, first you've got the Conor Ben situation, which was a huge scandal in itself because it seemed like Eddie Hearn was going to make the show go on, even though he knew Conor Ben had failed the drug test on two separate occasions, and not only that, he knew that he was going in there against a Chris Eubank Jr. who was compromised in terms of his weight. Then you got a situation where, obviously, for the Dillian White fight against Anthony Joshua, that's another failed drug test. And then you got a situation where it's happened again, but it's with a female fighter that's under his banner. And you got to remember, there was other times in the past where, for example, the first AJ versus Jarrell Miller fight, we saw what happened there. Jarrell Miller was a fighter that was working with DAZN and Eddie Hearn, and he got caught for taking steroids. So, just from a professional front perspective, I mean, it just doesn't look good, does it? And there's been many times where Eddie Hearn has said on camera that anyone that gets caught with steroids twice on two occasions should be banned for life. But then when his own fighter gets caught, he seems to take a different stance on it. So it's just not, from a professional perspective, it's just not a good look. And I feel like he's in a bit of a crisis at the moment because not only are these failed drug tests happening, I mean, let's just be real. DAZN is absolutely hemorrhaging money. Like, you've got the DAZN CEO who's put so much money into this to save boxing and like save his boxing branch, and literally it's just hemorrhaging money, and they're not getting any returns on their investment. So I'm just saying, from a professional perspective, it just seems like everything is going absolutely downhill. I think before I thought like after his showing against Hellenius, they might not put Anthony Joshua in there against Deontay Wilder, but based on what's going on with Eddie Hearn's empire and how everything seems to be crumbling, they might just take the fight with Deontay Wilder, despite the fact that Deontay Wilder is likely to win, because they just need some type of financial, like a huge financial injection to save their business, because the way things are going at the moment, with all of these shows getting cancelled, all of these drug tests being exposed, just the professional humiliation of everything that's happening. I mean, his moral integrity is actually under question now because of the fact that he tried putting Conor Ben in there when he knew he failed the drug test twice. Obviously, the VADA test has come back, and they've tried to um, exonerate Conor Ben's name. But the thing is, the public, the general public, the public's opinion is that Conor Ben is generally guilty. So from that perspective, it just seems like, just from a professional front, it just does not look positive for Eddie Hearn right now. And his fortunes could not be any more like different than Al Heyman. Al Heyman at this point in time, I think, from a financial perspective, it seems like he's doing really well, because obviously he signed Canelo to a free fight deal, and we all know Canelo has a huge drawing power. He's had the Crawford versus Spence fight, which drew huge numbers. He's had Javante Davis versus Ryan Garcia, which drew huge numbers. And he's probably going to have Crawford fight again this year, maybe. So that's going to, again, draw huge numbers. So from a financial perspective, it seems like Al Heyman's doing a lot better than Eddie Hearn, even though Eddie Hearn's got this huge DAZN deal that's worth billions, apparently. I mean, in terms of who's bringing the more money in, I think Al Heyman's winning that game at this point in time. He just seems to have his game on point. So yeah, I'm just saying, for a professional perspective, it just does not look positive for Eddie Hearn, and I'm hoping he can get his career together because I'll be honest with you, like he did save British boxing from the doldrums of we all remember them Box Nation era and before Anthony Joshua came onto the scene and before Carl Froch had his infamous fights with George Groves, there was a bit of a dead era in British boxing. And let's be real, as much as everyone in Britain supposedly hates him, Eddie Hearn was the catalyst that made us come out of that era. And then we had a brief golden age in British boxing where we had like 16 world champions, and that happened a large part because of Eddie Hearn and the fact that they had Anthony Joshua. So I do want Eddie Hearn to stay in business because I feel like he has been a catalyst for good, very good fights and a good transition into the sport of boxing. And I mean, he was a new guard that was completely different from the old guard. He wasn't like Frank Warren. He wasn't like Don King. He wasn't like Bob Arum. He was like a fresh energy in the sport. But now we've got a new guard, which is Ben Shalom. You've got like this situation with the zone, which is hemorrhaging money. You've got multiple fighters failing drug tests. You've got Anthony Joshua who looks shaky. You've got Conor Ben who's got a massive scandal attached to his name. You've got all of these professional scandals going on, and it just doesn't look good for Hearn. So from my perspective, I just think I hope he can change it around, and he can, because promoters have done this in the past. I mean, for a long time, Frank Warren was in the red, and now he's doing huge numbers with Tyson Fury and selling out stadiums, and he might get the obviously the Francis Ngannou fight is probably going to do big numbers, even though it's a gimmick fight. And if Tyson Fury does decide to fight Anthony Joshua, that will do big numbers, and he can get out the red as well. But like, and let's be real, there was a time when Al Heyman was completely buried under mountains of debt, and he's managed to get himself out the red. So I don't think it's inconceivable that Eddie Hearn can turn this around. But I'm just saying that at this point in time, he's in a professional crisis right now. He is going through it. I mean, three of his fighters have failed drug tests in the past year or so, and they're three top fighters. You got Conor Ben, who was his representation in the welterweight class. You've got obviously Dillian White, who scuppered the super fight with Anthony Joshua, and you've got this Alicia, female boxer who was almost like an undisputed champion. He had quite a few belts in women's boxing, and it's all linked with Eddie Hearn, so it just does not look good. But tell me what you think below. Do you think what I'm saying is true? Do you think this is terrible for his public image, just from a PR perspective? Obviously, like I mentioned, his moral integrity being in question and everything I said below. Or do you think Eddie Hearn can bounce back from this? I think it's possible for him to bounce back, but I can't lie and say this is not a huge blow to his reputation and to his public image and his PR. It just does not look positive for him. So tell me what you think below, and like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace.